Now, this particular presentation that I'm going to walk you through, and we're going to be doing a practical exercise today, I'm going to be showing you how to write a book. Now, how long would it normally take you to write a book on any subject? Figure? Week? Day? Years? Months? So the other day I was up at the University of Greenwich. I asked the exact same question and the general answer was months, at the very least. So if you had access to what I'm going to show you, and if we each had a particular laptop, and I could crowdsource this particular activity, you could write a book in 2 minutes. Almost on any topic, including the stuff that you are learning in science in a bit. So, I'm going to introduce you to a particular technology called generative artificial intelligence. Generally thought of as creative machines, these artificial intelligences are at the very beginning of their lives, but they are already starting to have an impact. And ironically, I've been talking about these AIs for about 10 years. Now, if you've heard of ChatGPT, Mid-Journey, and so on and so forth, that's what we're going to be going through. Now, as you look at your own futures, artificial intelligence is going to be the equivalent of the printing press, the loom, and the tractor for you guys. Artificial intelligence, it's estimated, will have a significant impact on your personal lives, your futures, your careers, the companies that you work for, the countries that you live in. Now, from an attitude perspective, you can look at artificial intelligence basically through two kinds of lenses. You can either be the farmhand that got automated by the tractor and you are out of work. You lose your livelihood. Or you can be the CEO of John Deere. Attitude as you look at the future is going to be everything. Now, as I travel around the world, the vast majority of people see this kind of image with artificial intelligence, mainly because the news outlets tell them that AI is going to automate all of their jobs, and that there are no exceptions, and that generally there's nowhere for you to go. So, according to the University of Oxford, companies like McKinsey, by 2030, up to 50% of the jobs that are available today will either be fully automated or partially automated by AI. And I have a giant list of the ones that there are. From coding, all the way through to law, creativity, research and development, and aspects of research and science. So from a coding perspective, if you don't code, we already see the development of artificial intelligences where you can talk to and say, build me a code, and build me a program. And they'll scavenge code, bring it together and say, is this the application you wanted me to build? However, there's another side to the story. For every job and task that I use artificial intelligence to automate, if I put a neat interface over the top of it that lets you talk to the artificial intelligence or communicate with it using natural language, you can democratize access to skills. Now, this particular image, for example, didn't exist. I'm not an artist. It took me about 3 seconds to put together. Ordinarily, I would have had to have gone to a UK artist, maybe on Fiverr or part of the gig economy, and they would have charged me, I don't know, 20 or 30 pounds basically to put it together. In fact, they'd have probably charged me a couple of £100 for this image. I did this for free. I'll show you how. Now, my son and I, Caden, about 3 weeks ago, we decided to write a book. Now, we decided to write a book basically on coaching for performance runners. And the reason we decided to do that is to test what these AIs can actually do. It took us 20 minutes to write the book. It took us about 6 hours to illustrate it, 8 hours to format it and put it into this content. And in the past 3 weeks, we've made over £7,000 for charity for using it. And this is what we created. So this entire book was created and generated by artificial intelligence. Now, Caden knows things about running, I know things about running, and his coaches actually proofread it and everything else. However, we could have written a book on any kind of subject. And we did this for £20. Although I could have actually written this entire book and developed this entire book for 0 cost. This book is now being sold around the world. So in the space of one day, we created an entire guide to running, which would ordinarily have taken months, perhaps. The images, because I run a business and I know, to generate all of these particular images would have probably been about £10,000. I didn't have to go to any UK illustrators or any world illustrators basically to create any of these images, and they're fairly decent. So we now live in this kind of era of real-time creation where creative artificial intelligences are creating everything from new lithium-ion batteries for Toyota in weeks, not years. Google is using artificial intelligence to create computer chips. General Motors is using artificial intelligence to create cars. Amazon is using artificial intelligence to design new clothes and new ranges. We have all kinds of different content being produced. So if you're on social media, TikTok, Facebook, whatever it happens to be, and you see all these influencers basically taking photos of themselves, I speak to lots of people that say, in the future, I want to be a blogger. I want to be an influencer. I can automate them with a digital human, and I can automate them with these tools. They'll be out of jobs in about 10 to 15 years. They're going to have to find something else that they need to do. We have companies like in silico that are using artificial intelligence to create over 20,000 drugs in 21 days. We have AIs at OpenAI, which are being used to create robots. And we have AIs at Hyperganic in Germany that are creating single-stage rocket engines, which are then 3D printed. The world that you're going into, basically, is generally very different to the one that you think you're going into. So this is the workshop. So if you each had a laptop, that's it, you could sort of do a bit of this, but I'm going to end up having to sort of walk through this. But what we're going to do is we're going to write a book. Now, I've been having conversations, because I'm actually a keynote speaker, I've been having conversations with good guys basically at London Speakers Bureau. So we thought basically we would actually write a book on the art of public speaking, right? Because how many of you are actually experts in that? Okay, so this is a good segue. Now, I also did an entrepreneurial course basically with the school, so this kind of sort of follows on from there. Now, all you need to do basically when it comes to understanding how you create a book in something like ChatGPT is you need to know how to type. Can you all type? Yeah. Okay, that's a good start. You need to put prompts into ChatGPT. So this is what we do. Create the chapter titles for a book titled The Art of Public Speaking. ChatGPT then creates a range of chapter titles, these, and then it's fairly straightforward. For the chapter titles, title X, Y, and Z, whatever that is, create up to 2,000 words of content. Now, depending on the book that we want to create, the style that we want it to look, follow, you can start modifying these prompts. You could put in the words of a 10-year-old, or for experts, or for people that's in one country versus another. So you can expand on these prompts. And in fact, there's a new job that's coming through called prompt engineering. So now what I'm going to do is, that's my introduction to generative artificial intelligence. This is the equivalent of the calculator appearing in the 1960s and schools and companies not really knowing what to do with it. Except this is much more powerful than the advent of the calculator. So, if we go to ChatGPT, if I can find the mouse, this is where really you guys should be able to do it, but great day. Okay, so now Here we go. So create the chapter titles for a book titled The Art of Public Speaking. ChatGPT basically goes off and it creates this, okay? So we take this, we copy it into something like Google Docs. That's our chapter heading. Then, all we do is we copy each one. Now I could actually put in here with examples. So this prompt is for the chapter titled Introduction to Public Speaking, create up to 2,000 words of content. Okay. But you can mess about with it. You can have more content, less content, with examples, without examples, basically, and so on and so forth. Here we go. Chapter number 1. This also has other applications as well, but I won't tell you that it could also automate homework because that would be naughty. So as you can see, off it goes. Now what I do is when it kind of stops, which it has, I copy that, put it into a Google Doc, along with the other chapters, format it, put some headings in, put bold, proofread it, check it and everything else, put it into a nice format that I want, okay? And that's it. And you do that with each chapter title, and in, 10 minutes, and we're not going to bore you basically doing this for each chapter, but in 10 minutes or under, you have a book on pretty much anything. How to make Roman sculptures, for example. Now what we want to do is we might want to actually illustrate it. So, how many of you use Discord? Do your parents know? So here we go, let's have a little look. So Discord is trying to find the net. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Discord is kind of like an open community. However, Discord gives you access to something called the Midjourney bot. Now the Midjourney bot is text to images. And if it can actually connect to the internet, there we go. I have my own 311 Institute Discord server. So this is actually the image I used in the presentation. You can see it here. All you do is you just put in text. Okay. So we put in imagine, and we can kind of put anything. So Midjourney doesn't really like creating images of people, finds fingers and everything else fairly confusing and everything else. But we could actually create a keynote stage in Dubai, futuristic background, and then you put in some sort of little prompts. So it could be, we want it 8K resolution, we want it ultra realistic, and you can mess around with these prompts, and we want it in this format, AR3:2, because we don't want it in square, kind of want it we want it in a sort of like 16:9 format. Off I go. And it thinks about it. So now what we're doing is we're sending this instruction to the Midjourney server or to the Midjourney bot. We have a natural language artificial intelligence that is trying to understand what do I mean when I say create a futuristic keynote stage in Dubai. It's pulling on all of the different data that it's actually learned from. So it's got to kind of know what a keynote is, what a stage is, what Dubai is. And this is where the skill with a lot of these artificial intelligences come in, because just like you guys need to understand what I'm saying, these AIs need to understand what I'm saying, but they need to understand the context. Now I could also put in things like in the evening, with people, without people, with furniture in the foreground, with no furniture, surrounded by windows or whatever it happens to be. And now what we have is we kind of have 4 options. So that is the Burj Al Arab, and you can obviously see it's figured out kind of what Dubai is. But now what we do is, I sort of think that image number 2 is interesting. I can vary it and everything else, but in the interest of time, what I now do is I decide that I want to upscale it. So I want a sort of more detailed version of that particular image. So maybe this could actually be on the front cover for the book, or it could be in some of the other chapter sections, basically, of the book, whatever. And it'll go off and it'll end up basically upscaling it. Now, what we've done in the space of, I don't know, how long's that been?
3 minutes? 4 minutes, maybe?
Yeah. So, in the space of a couple of minutes, I've used nothing but text prompts to create an entire book. And in a couple of minutes, I've used nothing but text prompts to create artwork, when it eventually goes to the server, that would take most human artists quite a while to create. Which means basically that if you all got together, or even if you did this individually, by the end of the day, you could have a book that you actually publish on Amazon. And in fact, it's taking longer to wait for the Mid-Journey server than it will take the artificial intelligence to generate the image, which is a bit ironic. And when that eventually comes up, see, it's morning, so everyone is obviously using Mid-Journey today. But that is how, in the space of a morning session, you write and create and publish a book. That is me done.
Astonishing. Guys, have you got any questions? I know I've got some. Who's got questions? You're so stunned by it that they can. Where's it drawing the information from?
So, depending on the artificial intelligence, basically they're trained on billions of different pages of content. Right. So here we go. So kick starting now. So typically what we have is got a huge amount of open source data that we actually train these artificial intelligences from. ChatGPT Plus, basically, and ChatGPT that has been embedded into Bing is now starting to learn from the internet. So the other thing that these tools kind of give you access to, say for example you go into science, right? So what's the subject that you're learning in science at the moment?
Biology.
Biology, okay. What topic, what thing?
Organisation.
Organs, okay, and organisation. So what you could do is you could actually also use ChatGPT and these other tools as research aids, but also as study aids. Because you could go, I've got an exam coming up, basically in biology, in organs. Yeah, what are the top 10 things, basically, that I should know? And ChatGPT and these artificial intelligences will go, well, if you've got an exam, these are the 10 things you should know. So when we have a look at these different tools, basically, while I'm helping you write a book using these different tools, basically from a research aid perspective, they are absolutely invaluable. And then this is the image and the stage, basically, that Mid-Journey has created. As you can see, I could sort of tweak it and I could do all kinds of different bits and bobs, basically, if I wanted to spend some time doing it. But when we have a look at this from a homework perspective, you could actually start taking in all the content that you have in your biology books. And at the moment, as humans, basically you've got to read chapters, right? You've probably got these big, thick biology books that are kind of like this. And you go home and you study and you're reading all these books and you're reading, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pages of content, depending on sort of how eager you are. Again, you can get these artificial intelligences to say, out of this book, summarize all of the key points. And it will say, right, out of the chapters that you were going to read, these are the key points. So now you're starting to learn faster. So these tools will automate different things. But these tools are also increasingly your advantage as you move anywhere near the workforce in the next 10 years.
Has there been, I'm sure there has been a reaction of people like publishing houses to this sort of stuff. What's their reaction been?
So we've got a whole variety. So I've actually been working with Bloomsbury and the Wall Street Journal Press on these. But also, when we talk about reactions, I sat down with 2 government ministers about 2 weeks ago at the Department of Work and Pensions, and I showed them the book that Kate and I wrote, and I said, well, hang on, so you wrote a book using artificial intelligence, and you could see from a human perspective, they were going, that's cheating, right? And I said to them, well, isn't the artificial intelligence that wrote the book just the equivalent of a ghostwriter? And you could see the minister, there were these 2 ministers from DWP, and you could see them sort of going, wanting to say, it's cheating. And no, it's not a ghostwriter. But they couldn't, because it's exactly what a ghostwriter does. But when we have a look at publishing houses, organisations like scientific reports, as well as Nature, they've said, we've actually seen researchers using ChatGPT to help them create research papers. And Nature, for example, has sort of said, actually, you cannot have ChatGPT create a scientific paper with you because that AI cannot take responsibility basically for those papers, and so on and so forth. But when we actually have a look at at the book space, I actually know a number of futurists who've said, we were going to write another book, but because these tools are now coming out, I'm not going to write another book. So I think it's kind of dumb, really, because if you have something to say, then say it. But also, this starts creating something called attention price inflation. Because I can write a book, right? So this morning, basically, we could have written a book on the art of public speaking, which was a book that was first put together in 1915 and is one of the world's best-selling public speaking books. Now, if I can create a book in a day, you can all create a book in a day. Everybody in Basingstoke can create a book in a day. Everybody in the UK can create a book in a day. So what now happens, basically, when everybody can create all kinds of different content, basically at extreme speed? Ultimately, this means, basically, that as you start growing up, you need to be your own brand. Because the reason why I buy your book and not my book is because I've heard about you. You have a reputation or something that I've been attracted to. And so when we actually have a look at the impact that these tools are having across industries, you kind of have 2 camps. You've got the people who actually use, like the lecturers at Greenwich, you've got people who are using it that are just going, this is amazing stuff. And they're writing different reports and papers and they're just going, the things that this thing knows basically is just staggering. And then you've got people who aren't using these tools, so typically the boards of universities, who don't understand them, they are absolutely freaked out by them, and they just outright ban them because they do not understand them. So when we talk about these tools, we are literally at the moment where it's like me going into maths class and saying, I've invented this thing called the calculator. And the maths lecturers and professors saying, you can't use a calculator, that's cheating. But how many of you now use calculators? Right? So whatever people think about these particular tools today, the fact of the matter is, over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you will all be using these tools for a variety of different things. So as a society, we either ban this stuff because we don't understand it, or we do what we're doing now, we experiment with it, talk about it, debate it, and figure out why is it good, why is it bad, and what can it actually do for us.
Theo, you had a question?
Could you make an image of Darth Vader eating a jacket potato?
We can. So, here we go. Right, so, we do imagine.
Is this the acid test? You don't believe it until you've seen Darth Vader eat a jacket potato?
Now, we could do backgrounds as well, so ultra realistic. 8K resolution. You don't have to put what I'm putting in here, things like 8K resolution. Here we go. Right, so we create our prompt. And this is sort of where your grasp of English, context, reasoning, and creativity start coming in. Because the picture that this will generate is really based on the prompt. Right? So if I started putting in the evening, on Tatooine into it and all that kind of stuff, it would come out with something else. And there are things that this AI is good at, there are things this AI is bad at. But as you can now see, say for example you wanted this particular picture for your bedroom, right? Or for the house. Maybe you could actually put it in the hallway or in your parents' living room or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
There you go. Now what we do is we kind of select one. Okay, so which one do you think is the best out of these? You can rerun it if you don't like any of them, but which one do you like?
Top left.
Top left, okay. So we do what we did with the last one. We click the button, we upscale. Okay, so upscale simply means we put more detail into it, really. And it sort of waits for the server like it did last time and everything else. And these particular, by using 8K resolution, that means that you can actually print these out in sort of A4 kind of size, a little bit bigger and everything else. Ultra realistic simply means that we kind of get the AI to focus on being a little bit more realistic, but I could actually put in an anime style, a photo style. I could have Darth Vader basically at the school, eating in the canteen alongside the teachers. We could do all kinds of different things. Now what we see with Midjourney is it doesn't like clashing lots of different things together, you know. So for example, you know, if we sort of talk about Caden's book, we tried to get a runner in the middle of a fruit explosion. And Midjourney was like, what the heck's that? And now it did do so, it put something fairly interesting together, but nevertheless, you know, it all looked a bit cronky. So this is sort of where you still have to, at the moment, use your human eyes and ears and everything else to sort of go, we like that image, but that one down there, that looks a bit odd, you know, or it wouldn't fly for whatever reason. And it will eventually sort of go to the server, and I'll send it the picture to you if you like.
Yeah.
But as you can sort of see, I mean, yeah, these images never existed before, right? It is highly unlikely that on the entire planet there is a picture of Darth Vader eating a jagged potato. Now here's the rub. Now if you were an entrepreneur, what would stop you taking that picture and then selling it to your friends at school and saying, tell you what, this is an original Darth Vader eating a jagged potato print. I will sell it to you for £5, and you put it up in the canteen. Now you're making money. But did you have to know how to make it? Are you an artist? Could you have created this image half an hour ago before I showed you this tool? I think that looks fairly realistic. That is actually quite decent. Although, how would he actually eat it with his helmet on anyway? Is it?
I don't know how it
But maybe he just sucks it in.
Any other questions? Otherwise we can start now. Thank you very much indeed, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have you enjoyed it? I'll send you a picture.
No, I'll be very grateful for that. Right, I hope you found that interesting this morning, guys. We're very lucky that people offer to come and give their time to us and talk about things like this. I know you've done a couple of talks yourselves as well, but it's all building up your knowledge and thinking about what you're going to do in the future. You know, as a sort of grey-haired old man, it always never ceases to amaze me how things have changed in my lifetime and continue to change. You know, and this will be really significant for you guys going forward, I would think.
Now, what I could do, just adding this in here, I could now put this into another artificial intelligence called DID, or even one called Synthesia, and I could now animate him. You could now put in text prompts about language, and you could actually now start getting him in a video saying, I love this jacket potato from the school, but I think everyone should go and buy it, or whatever it happens to be. So I'm increasingly able to turn that into a video, into an advert, or whatever it happens to be. I could actually then take this as a 2D picture, turn it into a 3D render, and turn it into a virtual reality universe, right? But do you need the skills to build worlds when really even now we're already on the cusp of saying, turn this into a virtual reality image? We could sell this as an NFT as part of Web 3.0 technologies and all that sort of stuff. So quite literally, you, because it was your idea, you could now turn this into an NFT and you could now start selling it in a whole variety of different marketplaces as a computational artist, perhaps.
Brilliant.
But when we start talking about the future is literally limitless, and it's a lot more exciting, basically, than you might think.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Griffin. That's brilliant.
You're welcome.
Right, guys, we better get into science. We can stay here all day, I'm sure, but we can't do that.
Enjoy science.
Yeah. Make sure you say